Justice Ducks, issue number 2 from Dynamite Comics. So this is a series within the Darkwing Duck universe, and it's basically the Justice Ducks. So it's Darkwing Duck's version of the Justice League. We have Gizmoduck, Neptunia, Morgana, and Stegmutt. And you may have realized I didn't say Darkwing. That's because he's not a part of the group, though he does help them from time to time. In the case of this series, so far, he's helped them in issue 1 and issue number 2. I actually liked how issue number 1 ended, so I'll just briefly cover it. A giant was attacking the city, and then the Justice Ducks showed up, and it turned out that these giants weren't attacking the city. They were just trying to look for ice cream. And so the Justice Ducks saved the day. And Darkwing had this little case that had all these devices in it, like a ring, a bracelet, a hair clip. It was just stuff so that the Justice Ducks can communicate with each other, and that's how the Justice Ducks were formed. And then they asked Darkwing if he was going to join, because they noticed he didn't have one of these items. And he said no, because I have something more important that I got to deal with. And everyone's like, what could be more important than joining the Justice Ducks? And then we cut to Darkwing, where he shows up home with ice cream, and he's sharing it with his daughter. And it's like, oh, okay, so his daughter is more important than joining a group of superheroes. And I was like, okay, that was very sweet. Here we have a little bit of Doctor Who crossing over. Not official doctors, but basically characters that are heavily inspired by the Doctor. And the character is Maven, and he has his compatriot Tulip. And they show up from a cabinet that appears out of nowhere. Yeah, they basically time travel and stuff like that. And as you can tell by the scarf and the jacket, and later on, just the way he acts, it's obvious that this is a Doctor Who reference. Yeah, he shows up and he's looking for something. And then that's when, not long afterwards, one of his rivals, the Botherer, shows up. And I was like, okay, that's a very that's a very good name, the Botherer, because he bothers people, get it? So we have Darkwing, and he's on a date with his girlfriend, Morgana. And that's when all of a sudden his spaghetti turns into stone. And that's when we basically have the Daleks show up, or at least this universe's version of the Daleks, which kind of look like pepper and salt shakers. And they basically shoot these beams at people, and it turns them into statues. And so Morgana calls upon the Justice Ducks to show up to help. And they're like, okay, well, what do we do to fight robots? And Stegmutt's like, well, let's just smash them. And everyone's like, all right, that sounds like a good idea. So then they basically just start smashing these robots. And that's when eventually they start getting overwhelmed. And Maven shows up. And Maven kind of explains what these robots are, that they belong to the Botherer, and that we need to jam his signal. And that's when the Botherer shows up, and he reveals that he wasn't just trying to turn people into fossils, but rather the people who have been turned into fossils slowly start mutating and become rock soldiers. And so his plan is to fossilize everybody on Earth and then let them mutate into rock soldiers, and then basically he'll be in control of them, so that's how he's going to rule Earth. And there's a signal being broadcasted, so they need to stop that signal in order to stop these robots and basically turn everyone back into, I don't want to say humans because they're not humans, but turn them back into ducks or whatever animals they were in the first place. And so, of course, they realize that the signal's coming from the Canard clock tower. And so Darkwing decides to leave the safety of the shield that Morgana has put up to stop them from being turned into fossils. And so he calls Launchpad to help, because he needs Launchpad to basically fly him up to the top of the tower. But of course, Launchpad being Launchpad and Darkwing being Darkwing, Launchpad drops a rope ladder, and it hits Darkwing in the back of the head and knocks him out. And they basically have to drag his unconscious body back into the little protective sphere that Morgana has set up. And Morgana is like, all right, why don't the three of you, Gizmoduck, Neptunia, and Stegmutt, you guys go take care of the clock tower, and I'll stay here and watch Darkwing and keep these robots focused on us. But I'm gonna stop it there because I don't want to spoil everything. But I enjoyed this series. Then again, I grew up on Darkwing Duck. He was one of my favorites. Darkwing Duck, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Spider-Man, G.I. Joes. Like those were my jam growing up. And so I love to see Darkwing, especially old school Darkwing. I know that they brought him back in the like DuckTales revival, but they kind of made him like a villain. Like they made the original Darkwing turn into Negaduck, basically, or at least the actor who played. Like they made it into a TV show, and then the actor who played the original Darkwing becomes Negaduck. So I don't really care for that. I kind of just like the old school OG Darkwing in that universe. So I'm glad we're doing comics set in that universe and that continuity. And the Justice Ducks. I don't mind them. I never really was a fan of like Gizmoduck and stuff growing up, but that was because like he always butted heads with Darkwing, and Darkwing was like my jam. He was my favorite. So like anyone that was like his rival, like I saw them as my rival as well. But like I liked how like the interactions between this group. I like the fact that Darkwing's not like officially a part of it. He's just kind of like on the outside, but he's occasionally helping them. I will say I think the first issue might have been, well, I think the action and the overall story of the second issue is better than the first one, but I do like the ending of the first one. Like I thought it was very sweet. I thought it was very sweet how he basically was like, nah, I'm not gonna join this group and go fight crime with you because I got something more important, and that's spending time with his daughter. So that was like nice. Here it's just, I'm not gonna spoil the ending, but we don't get anything like that. It's just kind of like your classic Darkwing Duck kind of ending. But yeah, it's like a fun little adventure. Like this is very much like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures comics, in the sense that it's basically just comic book versions of that show with, I mean, it's original storylines, but it's pretty much just like, what if we continued those series, but in comic book form instead of in animated form? So obviously it's targeted towards kids, but it's also like a lot of like nostalgia for people like me who grew up with this. I so enjoy it because it takes me back to that time. So like reading this makes me feel like how I was when I was a kid. So it's just a nice, fun little adventure series. Of course, the style is very much in the same as how the cartoons were. The writing very much feels like it could have been written for an episode from back then, just with a little bit more modern day references in the jokes and humor and stuff. But it very much just feels like Darkwing Duck, the cartoon, but in comic book form and episodic. So I'm perfectly happy with that. So yeah, if you like Darkwing Duck, check it out. If you want something for kids, check it out. Otherwise, I don't know. Like for me, like it's just, I grew up on this show, so obviously I want to see it continue. And if the only way I can watch it continue is comic book form, well, then that's what I'm going to do. And thankfully, it stays very much the same in terms of like the tone and the story quality and things like that. So yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. So there you go. There's Justice Ducks issue number 2 from Dynamite Comics. I hope you enjoyed and hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.